They say the other male is an A-list celebrity.
And there's a few I can come up with. Will Smith.
The story really seemed to change after that Red Table Talk episode aired. Before that, a lot of people felt sorry for Will Smith. After it, many started asking hard questions. On camera, Will didn't look confident or in control. He looked hurt, quiet, almost like he was being put on the spot in front of the whole world. Some people felt like he was taking emotional hits in public while being told it was part of healing. That's when loud voices online, like Charleston White, started saying what others were already thinking. He didn't just focus on one moment, he looked at Will's whole life, 30 years of being famous, 30 years of having a clean image, no big scandals, no messy public drama. He was always seen as the good guy. But when Jada brought their private problems to a talk show and turned them into content for the world to watch, people felt the image cracked. Charleston didn't call Will weak, he said Will might be stuck. According to that idea, maybe Will isn't staying because of love, maybe he's staying because leaving would cause even bigger problems. Divorce at that level isn't just two people breaking up. It could mean lawyers, money fights, business deals falling apart, and old secrets being dragged into the light. Staying keeps everything controlled. Leaving might open doors that have been shut for years. Then, Will's former friend, Bilal, began speaking publicly. He claimed that behind the scenes, things were tightly controlled. He said when he tried to speak out, lawyers got involved quickly. He described Will as someone who wasn't free to make simple choices without everything becoming complicated. Bilal made very strong accusations about Jada. It's important to remember that these are claims, not proven facts. No court has confirmed them. Jada and Will have denied many accusations before. But Bilal's main message was that he believed Will was surrounded by pressure, contracts, shared businesses, public image risks, and that walking away would trigger chaos. From that point of view, staying married isn't about romance, it's about avoiding a storm. Then other celebrities added their own opinions. Boozy Badazz talked about Tupac Shakur and Jada's close friendship with him when they were young. He suggested that Tupac was someone very special to Jada, and that maybe that connection never fully faded. In Will's own book, he admitted he once felt jealous of Tupac and wished Jada looked at him the same way. People online started building theories. They wondered if old feelings, old friendships, and old comparisons created tension over the years. Suge Knight also reacted strongly when Tupac's name was brought up again. He said people shouldn't use Tupac's story for attention, especially if they weren't there. So now you have layers: old friendships, public confessions, internet commentary, former friends speaking out, and a marriage that has played out in front of cameras. Then recently, a lawsuit was filed by a musician who worked on Will's tour. The musician claims he felt unsafe and that after reporting concerns, he lost his job. The case is still moving through the legal system. That means nothing has been proven yet. When someone famous stays quiet during a lawsuit, it's often because their lawyers advise them not to speak publicly. Silence doesn't always mean guilt. Sometimes it means strategy. When you step back, you see why people are confused. Will is dealing with public pressure, legal issues, career stress, and non-stop attention on his marriage. Every move gets judged, every silence gets analyzed. So when people ask, why doesn't Will just leave, the answer might not be simple. Divorce for regular people is hard. For global superstars with businesses, contracts, and decades of shared history, it's even more complicated. It's not just about feelings, it's about money, reputation, family, and long-term consequences. At the end of the day, only Will and Jada truly know what their marriage is really like. Everything else is opinions, theories, and outside voices trying to fill in the blanks. And sometimes the truth is much quieter than the internet makes it seem. The world watched Will Smith laugh for decades. He was the fun guy, the blockbuster star, the rapper who didn't curse. the actor who saved the world from aliens, robots, and disasters. He built a brand that felt safe, clean, untouchable. For 30 years, Will Smith looked like the man who had it all under control: career, family, image. Then something shifted. It wasn't just the Oscars slap. It wasn't just the entanglement headline. It was the slow unraveling that happened in front of millions of people, especially during that Red Table Talk episode. That was the moment many viewers stopped feeling sympathy and started feeling confusion. Why did Will look so uncomfortable? Why did he seem like he was shrinking in his own story? Why did it feel like private pain had become public entertainment? On that red table, cameras were rolling, emotions were exposed, and instead of looking like a Hollywood power couple handling things privately, it looked like a deeply personal conversation being broadcast to the world. Some people saw healing, others saw humiliation, and once that door opened, it never really closed. Commentators began dissecting every frame. Body language experts popped up online. Podcast hosts turned moments into hour-long debates. One side argued that Will was strong for staying. Another side said he looked trapped. The narrative fractured. Charleston White stepped in with blunt commentary. He didn't just focus on one viral clip, he zoomed out to the bigger picture. Decades of carefully managed image suddenly colliding with messy reality. According to that perspective, the issue wasn't weakness, it was control. Not physical control, narrative control. Because when your entire career is built on being the good guy, what happens when the story changes? What happens when the audience sees cracks? What happens when your marriage, something most people guard fiercely, becomes part of the content cycle? For years, Will and Jada spoke openly about growth, transparency, healing, and unconventional love. Some praised their honesty, others felt like boundaries were disappearing. The more they explained, the more people speculated. Then former associates began speaking publicly. Claims, counterclaims, cease and desist letters, media interviews, accusations flying back and forth. None proven in court, none fully resolved in public, but loud enough to fuel endless online theories. And when former friends start telling stories, even if unverified, it creates noise. Noise turns into headlines. Headlines turn into assumptions. Meanwhile, Will stayed mostly silent. Silence from a celebrity at that level is rarely random. It's usually strategic. Lawyers advise, publicists calculate. Timing matters, words matter. Sometimes saying nothing is the safest move. But silence also leaves space, and in that space, the internet builds its own version of events. Add to that the resurfacing of Tupac's name, a powerful cultural icon tied to Jada's past, and emotions get even more layered. Will himself admitted in his memoir that he once felt jealous of Tupac and wished Jada looked at him the same way. People online started building theories. They wondered if old feelings, old friendships, and old comparisons created tension over the years. Then came a soar from a touring musician claiming he felt unsafe and faced retaliation. The case is still unfolding legally, no verdict, no final ruling, but the existence of the lawsuit alone added more pressure to an already heavy public narrative. So now the question echoes everywhere. Why doesn't Will just leave? On the surface, it sounds simple. If you're unhappy, walk away. But marriage at that level isn't simple. It's shared businesses, shared foundations, shared investments, decades of contracts, global branding, children, extended families, real estate portfolios, production companies, legal frameworks built over 30 years. Divorce for regular people is emotionally exhausting. For global superstars, it can also be financially seismic and legally explosive. Walking away doesn't just end a relationship, it can trigger audits, court filings, asset divisions, non-disclosure agreements, and old secrets being dragged into the light. Staying keeps everything controlled. Leaving might open doors that have been shut for years. So is staying about love? Is it about loyalty? Is it about fear of collapse? Is it about protecting a legacy? The truth is, only two people actually know. From the outside, we see edited interviews, red carpet smiles, book excerpts, podcast clips, and court headlines. We don't see the private conversations at 2 a.m. We don't see therapy sessions. We don't see family dinners behind closed doors. We don't see the agreements, boundaries, and understandings that may exist between them. And that's where the mystery lives. Because fame magnifies everything, a normal argument becomes a trending topic, a personal confession becomes a meme, a marriage becomes a public debate. Maybe Will stays because he believes in working through storms. Maybe he stays because leaving would cause even bigger problems. Maybe he stays because relationships are complicated and love isn't always loud or visible. Or maybe the truth is far less.
Because sometimes what looks like weakness to the public is actually a choice. Sometimes what looks like silence is strategy. Sometimes what looks like chaos is simply complexity. Whether you believe Will is staying out of love, loyalty, fear, protection, or practicality, one thing is undeniable. His life is not simple, and neither is hers. But here's the bigger question. Why are we so invested? Why does their marriage spark such intense debate? Maybe because it reflects something deeper about us, about how we view relationships, about how we define respect, about how we think love should look, about how we judge strength and vulnerability in men and women. Maybe this story isn't just about them. Maybe it's about how we process public failure, how we react to vulnerability, how quickly we turn people into characters in narratives we create. So before we rush to conclusions, maybe the smarter move is curiosity instead of certainty. Instead of asking, why doesn't he walk away? Maybe ask, what don't we know? Instead of declaring who's right or wrong, maybe recognize that real life is rarely that clean. And here's where you come in. What do you really think is happening behind the scenes? Do you believe staying is strength? Do you believe leaving would solve everything? Do you think fame makes relationships harder or just more visible? Do you think the public should even have a say in private marriages? Drop your thoughts, not just surface reactions, but real, thoughtful perspectives. Let's move past gossip and talk about the bigger themes: power, image, loyalty, pressure, ego, love, survival. If this story says anything, it's that public life magnifies everything. And maybe the real lesson isn't about whether Will walks away. Maybe it's about how we handle pressure in our own lives. Because most of us won't face global headlines, but we all face moments where staying feels hard, leaving feels scary, and silence feels safer than speaking. So as this story continues to unfold, remember, we are observers, not participants. Speculation is easy, understanding is harder, and sometimes the strongest move in a loud world is choosing not to pretend we know everything. Now it's your turn. What's your take? And more importantly, why?